Aloha kako.
Aloha.
It's showtime. There's going to be a lot of history tonight, so I'll just remind some of you to remember this. That's from a hit movie, 1979, called All That Jazz. It was kind of the semi-autobiographical story of Bob Fosse, who was a choreographer and dancer in those days. And he had an addiction problem. And so before he had to go out and create and perform, he would look at himself in the mirror and say, "It's showtime." And we've started doing that at our campus, actually, a couple of teachers and I, and it's wonderfully energizing and empowering. So I want to hear all of you say this now. It's showtime.
It's showtime.
All right, here's something else we do in my class, call and response. This is very historic too. The slaves did a lot of this. While they're working in the fields, someone calls, they all respond. There was also a way of sending secret messages. So I'm going to call a few things out to you, and you are going to respond. First one is, I'm going to call, "Are you ready?" And you are going to reply in unison, "Yes, we are ready." So let me hear this. Are you ready?
Yes, we are ready.
Are you ready to travel far and see deep?
Yes, we are ready.
That was pitiful.
Showtime!
It's showtime. We're going to do that one more time. Are you ready to travel far and see deep?
Yes, we are ready to travel far and see deep.
Okay, one of the best ways of going, it's something I'm sure you all feel that love maybe Greenwell, Ethnobotanical Garden. And I would like to have you take this image now. This is going to be very much of a presentation of images, those that you will see on the screen here, and those that I will help you conjure up in your mind. So this one I'd like to have you conjure. I'd like to have you think of a tapestry of light, a great tapestry of light that is life itself, and the individual streams of light in this tapestry are the lives of us, that they are flowing through this great tapestry. They intertwine sometimes, wrap around each other, go off in different directions, sometimes seem to be only moving forward, sometimes feels like moving back. But that is the great tapestry of life. And you want to think about making your own tapestry as strong as possible with those connections. And so, history, new Pālamanui Forest Preserve, and Botanical Garden, and us. This will be an exercise in historical seeing. Historical seeing is looking into time and reading the land. I was taught this concept by Uncle Sonny Solomon of North Kohala. He was the trailman for the plantation for many years. Then he was the trailman to restore trails of Mapakahi and other important places in Kohala. And when I was hired by the state to be a trail hunter, I went to him to get his guidance. And this is what he told me about looking for Hawaiian trails. That when you are looking for them, first of all, you have to get into the minds of the ancient Hawaiians. Where would they have wanted a trail? What would have been the best route there? Get into their minds. The second thing you have to learn is how to read the land. And by reading the land, you are actually reading the history of the land. And so I want to share with you now, as we start to go through, pardon me, these images, that we will be reading the land. And it's a skill that can help you to live a multi-dimensional life, where you can look at the land and you see not only the surface that's there, but you see into those depths, into those connections. And this is the way it goes. I'm going to share with you what I call the 5 great phases of Hawaiian history. History is far too vast and complex not to make an effort to compress it up into a shape that you can handle and understand. And so this is one of the most powerful compressions that I've been able to come up with. 5 phases that are applicable to both Hawaiian history and world history. So listen to them, and then we will see some images here also. So, phase number 1, formation of the land. Let me step aside here. See, formation of the land. We are lucky we live in a place where formation of the land is still happening here. When you talk about energy, imagine this energy that is pushing land up above the surface and building this island even as we stand on it. Formation of the land determines everything else basically. Where each ecosystem is going to go will be determined by where it lies on the land. We'll see one more here. So as you can see here, here's Mauna Kea. This is from the Pu'uho'o Trail on the South Road to remind us that this incredible force has gone up to over 13,000 feet. And again, as I said, it is that which determines the rest. Now let's take a look at phase number 2. Phase number 2 is the coming of life. And this is one of the most magical and just ecstasy producing, I think, when you think about the journey here of a seed, a spore, a bird, a microorganism, a plant that is able to arrive on this new land and probably become something absolutely unique. The rate of endemism here higher than probably any place in the world. Plants that are absolutely unique, birds that are absolutely unique to here. This whole idea of life being able to establish itself in a difficult place. These are hollow trees here, which are probably brought by the first people, but they represent where they're hanging on to life there by that Anchialine Pond, South Kohala, how probably this happened. The 3 W's, wind, waves, and wings. And the most important, wings. Seabirds especially flying great distances from island to island, bringing seeds here. And those seeds then being able to establish and become something new. So we go on to number 3. Well, no, we will see one more here, because this is a place that is so awesome to be able to show that incredible life force that pushed life all the way up to the tops of the mountains. This is the top of Kohala Mountain here. This is what my son, who grew up as a pig hunter in Kohala, and his friends called the Green Temple. And I think that is the perfect name for it. The whole spiritual note that started off with Rebecca's holy here runs throughout all of nature, all of history. And so it is something to honor, whether we're looking at a beautiful garden like here, the new Pālamanui Forest Preserve, or the top of Kohala Mountain, the Green Temple. So, what's the next phase? 3rd phase, coming of man. And that means man, woman, and child, of course. I love this petroglyph here because, to me, it really shows what I feel those first people must have felt when they arrived on these shores after a journey to they knew not where. And now they have come to this magical place. And the joy of arrival, I believe, is expressed in this. When you think about what would they have seen when they arrived here, the first word that comes to my mind is Eden. They arrived in Eden because here were ecosystems that were operating at their maximum potential. There's no human intervention yet at all. And so just imagine the opihi on the rocks, the crabs scuttling about in the same place, the fish in the reef, the beautiful coral in the reef, the birds in the forest, which came right down to the water's edge. That is an awesome thing to think about arriving in a place like that. And it would surely cause you to raise your canoe paddle in absolute joy and wonder. So this is a painting by my Marine Corps Kenai brother, Walihua Gray. He has gone on to the ancestors now, but he was a great force in the art world here. He's a contemporary of Herb Kane, and they exhibited together at times. Walihua did primarily two different series. One was his Pele series, which this one is from, and this one is of Arrival. What he's really trying to show is what I mentioned, that kind of wonder at coming to a place which, as I said, surely looked like Eden itself. When the first people arrived here, I believe that one of the first things that they saw was a trail. How could this be? There were no people here. What could have made a trail here before the people arrived? Pardon? What kind? Birds. Exactly. Let's see. Yes, it is a bird. It's called moanalo, the disappeared fowl. The artist here has imagined it, I think, as maybe looking somewhat like a nene goose. But while the people were probably wondering who is going to be coming down this trail toward us, this comes walking down the trail, and they know they have arrived in paradise because it's going to take a long time for them to start growing out all those plants that they brought with them. What are they going to do? It's a fascinating thing in history when whole peoples shift back to an earlier form of life. In other words, here, the hunter-gatherer state, the forager state, the very first state that we as human beings lived in. Agriculture comes next. So now these expert agriculturalists are going to live a life of the hunter-gatherer. And these birds would have had no fear of human beings. And on islands all over both the Pacific and the Atlantic, large flightless birds disappeared pretty quickly after people arrived. At any rate, that would have been another thing to cause that joy of the paddle raised overhead. So what is the next phase? Phase number 4. Coming at the other. Let me hear you say that. One more time.
Coming of the other.
Coming of the other. The other, a term that's used to denote those who come from a completely different world and arrive then, in this case, in Hawaii. This other, I don't know if you can notice it, but right out the bow of that ship there is what looks very much like a harpoon. Pretty sure this is a whaling ship that was riding just offshore, not far from Waikoloa and Ho'omalu. And you can imagine the petroglyph artist looking at that ship and making this amazing representation of it. So, the coming of the other is Captain Cook, of course, and happens right down below us there. We are in Captain Cook now, so that kind of reminder is with us. We don't have to look too far to remember this particular phase and to know that it set off then waves of change. That became one of the great factors and elements in Hawaiian history. Is change became the name of the game, and the impact of people coming from another world after Captain Cook and knowledge of the existence of these islands appeared. Soon, whaling ships came, sandalwood traders came, ships finding this as a perfect place to pause in their journey, many of them to China. And so this as one of the great phases. And again, when we look around, we can see these things written in the land itself. Just as with the second phase, the coming of life, we can walk through the garden here and see all of the native plants there. We've got the same thing going now at Pālamanui. With the coming of the other, or the coming of the first Polynesians here, then you start to see the canoe plants, those mini plants that they brought and prospered and helped them to prosper. Then with the coming of the other, you begin to see even more of that. When we're at Pālamanui and we're gazing upward toward the top of Hualalai, which you'll see in an image here soon, we see across the line what we call the tree line, a very definite line where the fountain grass sea, that's invasive fountain grass sea, meets the remnant lowland tropical dry forest. And it is a place that especially goats have pushed the forest to and continue to work along that line. As we have worked there, we've discovered that it is an actual combat zone. It's the front line in the war between the goats and the forest that they have been waging since they first arrived here and became this huge element of change. So the last phase of phase 5 of these phases. Remember I said these fit for world history too. You can choose any place in world history and you will have the same sort of progression happening throughout those first 4 that you've seen. Phase 5 is continuing change. So that, of course, is the many ethnicities that came here from many different parts of the world. It's represented in this room here and in the population of our state. But it is a phase that offers them what really we heard in this beginning words of Rebecca here, of connections, of togetherness. This is a mural that was done for the North Hawaii Community Hospital by my brother Wailea Gray. And what he depicts here is a canoe. You see the waka shape there. And in the canoe is, over on the right, is a kahuna. You see him with his tea leaf there. On the left is a modern doctor with the symbol there of modern medicine. The family in the middle, and again, this feeling of togetherness, of loka, unity, that we're together here. This is another way of looking at it. This is what we do at Pālamanui. The trail system, I must tell you, is like a gigantic spider web laid down on the land. The Hawaiians were as expert trail makers as they were agriculturalists and fisher folk. That this system, which we are blessed to be able to uncover and bring back to life again, also brings forth that kind of unity that you see here. Look at this. Everybody is totally involved. What they were doing is pulling the fountain grass out of the bed of the trail. And once their work is done, they will walk down this newly birthed ancient trail. And it is one of the great feelings that you can get when you're out there doing things on the land. You can feel the mana coming right up through the soles of your feet from the centuries of people that have walked on these trails, from the mana that they have put into it now is released while you walk there, having done something wonderful in bringing this back to life again. And this is one of the main things that we do there. And Now I will tell you the story of how the Pālamanui Forest Preserve came to be. And I want you to remember this picture here as you are looking at it. So, we'll go back to the thrilling days of yesteryear, the year 2000. Oh, what a year it was. It was surprising. The computers all over the world did not crash. People actually moved to Kohala in those days from the mainland, thinking that that was going to happen and they would be able to live in a place where they could survive. At our campus down the street here in Kelikikua, my classroom, by the way, was right next to the corner pocket. We received exciting news that the university was going to build us a new campus, that we were going to be the newest and probably the last campus that the University of Hawaii system would be. We would be number 10 in the 10 campus system. Not only that, it was going to be on 500 acres of land above the airport. This was staggering to us. And right away, we got together a van tour where we got to go out there and drive the old ranch roads on these 500 acres. And it stirred us no end. We were seeing trees that we'd never seen before. Aiea, ukiuki, kawila. This was amazing. We started learning about the lowland dry forest. That we discovered that the tropical lowland dry forest in Hawaii was the most endangered ecosystem in Hawaii and also in the world. And we were going to be plopped down in a place where the remnant of it was still there. And learning these things, coming back to our campus here, and it seemed like the university was going to do this right away. And so we had focus groups with our students. What would you like to do to take part in the rise of this new wonder, a new campus on 500 acres? Almost unanimously, students chose, we want to restore the lowland dry forest. We want to preserve what's there, restore what's lost. Okay, well, a year passed and the campus hadn't yet arrived. We had a new group of students. We go out there, we have the same kind of trip, the same sort of wonder. This is a forest we have not seen before. Because in Kona, it's 95% gone. 5% left only. So the forest that once existed all the way from North Kohala, all the way down through South Kona, remnants of it all the way to South Point, almost completely gone. It was heartbreaking to think of that. And so again, the focus groups we have, what do you students want to do? We want to preserve what's left and restore what's gone. And that went on for several years before there was an actual campus to go to. And our neighbor there, where there was a development plan, engaged us to find the trail, the Maukamakai Trail, that the archaeologists had theorized was there from discovering a number of apu, which seemed to be in a line. And so they got us, me principally, I suppose, but all of us really, to do this. And sure enough, we were able to find the trail, and this is then students restoring the trail. This is it, bringing it back to life again. So this was an exciting thing to happen as the campus was rising. And as we made this trail happen just to our north, it was time to see if we could connect it to the state land that our campus was on, a bit to the south. And so going out one day with that in mind, I found the link. Remember I said the system of trails was like a giant spider web laid down upon the land. There were trails everywhere. And so you can still find the remnants of them out there. It's one of the most exciting things. You'll never forget your first trail. It's like your first love, for sure. So I discovered a link that took me then down toward our campus, and along the way through the remnant forest, I came upon a Wili Wili tree. And I thought, oh, terrific, there's a Wili Wili tree there. Then I came upon another Wili Wili tree, and then another. And then there were 30 Wili Wili trees in a grove there. That this was mind-blowing to be able to find so many of those beautiful, venerable Wili Wili trees in a grove. And then, passing out of the grove, I came upon something, in a way, even more marvelous. It was 5 ancient Wili Wili that were completely golden in all of their bark and twigs. We have come to call them, not surprisingly, the golden oldies. And I was mind blown by this. I went on down to the campus, which now is there, and I thought, I have to tell somebody about this, somebody important. I thought of a politician. And I thought of Cindy Evans, who was a state representative at the time, and had helped us a lot at the Veterans Cemetery, where we had done reforestation also. And so I called her up. She was at her office in Honolulu. I said, Cindy, I just found a really, really grove of 30 trees, and then these 5 amazing old ones, you know, they're golden. It's so amazing. What are we going to do about this? And she said, you've got to tell Dave Smith about this. He's the head of the State Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I've been working with him on the Pololu question. He's a nice guy. He will want to hear this. I'll get him on the line right now. And in a moment, I hear a male voice coming on, and I'm talking to the head of the State Division of Forestry and Wildlife. And I tell him what I've just found, and his response was this: it would be perfect to have a forest preserve on the doorstep of a college campus. And I knew that dream had just come true. Of those first students, they set in motion, I believe this, they were the ones that started the movement that came to fruition when Dave Smith said this would be perfect to have a forest preserve. And so it's not just 500 acres now either, it's 706 acres. And in addition, we have this wonderful botanical garden where we've thrown a lot of our effort into, which we will see happening here. This is 2019, and this is people working here, and this gives me the opportunity to tell about a certain practice that we have that I want to relate to one of those pictures on the wall, that we ask the people who plant with us in the many places we've done this, state tree, native forest preserves, the veteran cemeteries I mentioned, the O'oma forest where we planted thousands of koa trees. We ask everybody to dedicate their plantings to someone special. And so when they're planting, we just ask them, just keep that person in mind. And what we have realized is that in all of those places where those trees have prospered, that they are a forest of loved souls. They all represent some beloved person there. And so what I want to say now is that everything I've said so far, I'm going to put Rebecca's Oli and Pule in there also. I want to dedicate to a very special person, and that is Miley Melrose, in that picture right there. That her energy, her abundant energy, her goodness of heart, her devotion to not only to the land, but to the community, to the history of this place, is something that is a legacy that will be with us forever. She was in my writing personal history class, and she regaled us each week with stories of her illustrious ancestor, Henry Nicholas Greenwell, and his amazing odyssey here, and how all of this began for her, and then how part of it has become the Amy Greenwell Ethnobotanical Garden. Something so special and dear. Miley, we love you. So, I want to show you, you see here something really interesting in these pictures, I'm sure. Nobody's moving off. Everybody is intense. Everybody is doing it. It's an energy that is amazing to be part of. I tell my students after each of these events that I ride a wave of bliss for 2 or 3 days after it happens, just because of the wonderful energy that's generated here. So this is 5 years ago. Now you will see now.
Where is this?
Oh, this is our botanical garden right outside our campus. Remember, David Smith said it'd be great to have a forest preserve on the doorstep. This is the doorstep of our school right here. And so this is where we have poured a lot of our effort into to show what can be done. And this is what it looks like now. So that's 5 years. And there's a lot of great news about something like this. Part of it is that there is natural regeneration that happens here. And the same thing happened at the Veterans Cemetery. That once we protect it from the goats, once we pull the fountain grass, that Hawaiian seeds have been waiting for this moment. Koali comes back, Uhaloa comes back, Ilima is there. It's a glorious thing to see that not only that we are bringing back plants that were there at one time, but nature is doing its thing too. And you must stop by Pālamanui sometime and just check this out. Or second Saturday of every month, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., we do our thing out there. Some of it is up in the forest preserve, some of it is in the botanical garden, some of it is trail restoration, some of it is planting, and it is, you can ride the wave of bliss too. I want to ask you now to return to the call and response here for a few moments to bring us to a close. So I will ask you to repeat a few Hawaiian phrases after me. Here's the first one. E la hoi manawa'a. One more time. E la hoi manawa'a. That's everybody paddle the canoes together. Now listen to this one. This one's kind of tricky. So as soon as I stop, you start. Ike ka, ika hoi, ika hoi, ike ka. The best anybody in any group has ever done. And then one more. Paiaku ikahaina. So what it means, in la hoi mainawa'a, everybody paddle a canoe together. Bail and paddle, paddle and bail. And finally, and reach the shore. The whole idea back to the one that started us off, togetherness, built up, unity, connections. It's what it's all about. And it's a beautiful thing. And it's a beautiful thing to share these ideas with you folks. I must say that if I were rating you as a class of attentive people, definitely A+.